The legal partner on my marriage certificate owed it so disgusting. I called me 5 minutes ago and told me that it's dry in autumn, and asked me to make some carrot soup at home, and told me the carrot ribs and soup, 3 of them, very seriously. So that he can drink a mouthful of hot soup after he comes back from overtime by sprinkling salt. I decided to put rat poison in the soup and drink it to the thing. Yu Haikiao is a dog/force. He took the best professional degree certificate from the best university in our city and went to a foreign company to do IT, and he was still a pharmaceutical company. Pharmaceutical companies are very powerful and rich. The IT department counts 8 people with 2 hands, and 5 of them are outsourcing. It is a department that is extremely underestimated. Even if Yu Haikiao eats and waits for death, he must have a face. Express it to me solemnly. Everything is my own arrangement. I have arranged for him. Tonight is the end of his life. Of course, his doing IT in a pharmaceutical company is not a heinous mistake. Although he rejected a lot of offers from many companies after graduating from a master's degree, he was stuck in his home city for life or death, but it was him. Of my own choice, although I got married with him, I had to take turns to visit each other's parents' house to be filial to each other on weekends. I can be called his wife in name, but I have no right to take care of him. Oh, he is not qualified to say this to me. On the day he came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau after getting his marriage certificate, he drove his Audi A6, which I hated so much. He sat in the driver's seat and stared at me for a long time, and then told me, "She ran, although you gave me a certificate. But you are not qualified to control me in terms of feelings." I wanted to pour a bottle of sulfuric acid on this person's human face on the spot. When I threw the ring to me, I felt like a dog, and immediately kicked my nose on my face as soon as I signed the name. If it wasn't for the fact that no one wanted you until you were 27 years old, I wouldn't be able to give you this testimony. Of course, having this certificate with you doesn't affect us anything, mainly to make our parents look good. You also know how fierce my mother urges marriage. I haven't played enough with it when I'm young. Of course I can't be bound by marriage. Think about you. Anyway, I don't have anything to do with old Zhuang, so I will reluctantly accept you and wait until I find true love. I just divorced you. But don't worry about what I will do to you. I won't be interested in a woman like you who is so grumpy and barely eye-catching. Besides, we both grew up together. If we are interested in you, then I will round up. It's all tantamount to incest. It's disgusting. Besides, my two are helping each other. Last time, your mom told me to introduce someone to you. You don't like it if you do IT, and you force my friends who don't do IT. You don't look good when you say get together with me. This is not for your mother not to rush you, and for my mother to stop talking about me. We will try to solve the parent problem first. Wait for compensation after the divorce. Your loss, you can divide a small part of my assets. This force is always a dog who can resolutely not speak. I knew that I was going to kill this man one day when I got his marriage certificate. The other night I was sitting on the bed holding a tablet and watching Deadly Woman. The dog Yu Haikiao lay on the bed and squinted at the phone. He looked at me and slanted his eyes toward me. I think there are quite a few people recently. Look, there are still people discussing in our departmental group. I sneered, there are 8 people in your department, all of whom are men. Are you still discussing the TV series you are chasing in the group? Yu Haikiao is a scholar who reads a lot. He has long been short-sighted, but when he was reading to pretend to be handsome, he couldn't see the blackboard clearly, but he insisted not to wear glasses. He had myopia correction surgery in college and his eyes could see. It's clear, but the habit of squinting at things is still here. He squinted his eyes and stared at my screen for a while. I moved the screen to my side, deliberately blocking his view, and continued, your small department is quite lively. Yu Haikiao frowned and began to break my arm, as if he was tearing a corbel with great strength. Hey, let's watch it together. I haven't seen it yet. I yelled deliberately and then threw the tablet to him. He took the tablet and glanced at me. What a fart! Can your bone be clamped by the door? Can the door be broken, or can it be broken by me? I didn't come up in a breath at the time, thinking that I would use this to force him to fall asleep at night and strangle him with a rope. He held the tablet in one hand to me and the other hand sneaked over and squeezed my arm gently. I gritted my teeth for a while, thinking that the Yu Haiqiao would have such a duplicity in this life. I will follow his surname in the future. Yu Haiqiao watched this work with me for a while holding a tablet computer. His mouth began to talk endlessly, watching the opening song for a while. Oh, you women have a lot of real things, are they all violent? Look at this buddy who gave gifts to his wife and was smashed to death. After a while, he said, it's good to be a housewife. The house is clean and saves money for looking for an aunt, and you can get hot meals when you go home. He squinted his eyes. Read it seriously and discuss it with me. It's not a problem for a man to cheat. There is no man in this world who doesn't steal fishy. I couldn't bear it and didn't want to bear it anymore. I picked up the pillow behind my head and directly covered this incomprehensible face. Shut up, silly/force. I think either I will divorce Yu Haiqiao in a hurry tomorrow, or I will kill him one day. Yu Haiqiao has a face full of peach blossoms. It turned out that when I was short-sighted, I still had a sense of intrigue and shame. When strangers saw handsome guys, classmates saw them as academic bullies. A friend who is familiar with it is also a gentle and good young man, so I grew up with him to see the essence through phenomena. His essence is a dog/force. When he was in high school, he chased the school flowers in our school, but he was a lover. He opened his mouth and shut up and said it hurts women to have children. I don't want you to feel pain because of that, I only hope you are happy and happy. If you have something you like, you can do it, no matter whether it makes money or not. I can make money to support the family, and the housework will not let you touch it. I can ask auntie, you never have to worry about these things, I will do it for you, do it well. What? Like other people, of course it's impossible. I only like you. How can I still look at others after meeting you? When I was in high school, I accidentally heard that I almost nauseated so much that my mother thought I had eaten something and got acute gastroenteritis. She dragged me to the hospital and was registered. Yu Haiqiao came to the hospital in a school uniform with sweaty forehead. I greeted me, and I got a few words of praise from my mother. She praised him for being handsome, mature, well-behaved and sensible, and I wished to put him in my stomach and give birth to him again. I confessed them for a few moments, and immediately felt that my stomach was no longer nauseous, and I immediately wanted to go back to school and study hard every day. The result of studying hard every day is that the university is admitted to a university in this city, which is about half an hour's drive away from home. In the afternoon, I can go home for dinner and then return to the school to live on campus. The school is in the university town, and there are many universities nearby. The best university in the province is just one subway station away from the gate of our school. From the back street of our school to the end, it can be connected to the north gate of their school. Yu Haiqiao left the high school and bid farewell to his goddess school flower. This dog has good grades and basically wants to go to which university, and stay in which city he wants to stay in. As a result, he cannot do without his own climate. In his hometown, his goddess school flower rushed to the international metropolis. On the day I broke up with him, I was drinking milk tea in a milk tea shop. The two of them were sitting not far from me, discussing the future very seriously, what development is good, and what opportunities. That's so much. When it comes to the school flower, the flower smiles bitterly and said, I didn't expect you to stay here. Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, pretended to be serious and said, yes, I didn't expect it either. I have to spit out milk tea. After the goddess school flower left, Yu Haiqiao paid for the milk tea and bought a plate of snacks and sat across from me. I thought he broke up and wanted me to be relieved. He bought some snacks to please me before reaching out. Going to pick it up, he slapped his hand off with a slap. He sat on the opposite side of me and grabbed a plate of potato chips, biting it until I felt the magic sound filled my ears, and almost slapped his head with a slap. Yu Haiqiao stared at me heavily and said, "I broke up." "I haven't sneered yet." Yu Haiqiao immediately said, stupid/forcibly, "I don't stay at home. I ran so far to go to college. Who washes my clothes? Canteen food is unpalatable. Where should I eat?" At that time, I felt that Yu Haiqiao was not worthy of love in this life. Tonight, until Yu Haiqiao enters the house, the most important reason I should have killed this dog has not been revealed yet. He is a liar dog/force. From the time I was studying, it was obvious that I was going out to play, but I had to tell my family she had a poor test result last week. I went to make up for her. Then he appeared at my door carrying a school bag as a 3 good student. Won my mother's trust, she cheated me out of the house by giving me a topic as an excuse. After cheating me out of the house, I went to play basketball by myself. What should I do? Let me hold a heavy exercise book. Learn the true meaning of learning, progress in the place of learning. At that time, a young and ignorant person who was still worried about academic performance, I followed him several times. In the end, I was angry and told his mother the truth of the matter so that this matter got its due result. After this dog became an adult, he even lied and opened his mouth, tricking my parents into thinking that my marriage to him was a blessing for my generations. Even last weekend, he woke up at night and ate the only thing left in the refrigerator. A popsicle can also look at me innocently and deny, "I don't have one." This dog/force doesn't have a single truth in his mouth. He is the only one except me in our house. Will my popsicle run with long legs? He even told such low-level lies, and my knowledge of him immediately reached a new level after the dialogue was completed, so that after 10 seconds of silence, I gave him a and returned to the bedroom. Silently lying on the bed and emptied my shopping cart with his Alipay intimate payment. In view of the principle that money can buy happiness, I have been happy for several days. Compared with seeing Yu Haiqiao, I also feel that it is a little more beautiful than before. I don't call him Yugu on WeChat, even today. In the afternoon, after the company received several couriers, he happily ordered afternoon tea for him and his 8 colleagues in the department. Originally, as a pleasant surprise, the delivery man was sent to the front desk of his company, and then he was told that he was not in the company. I immediately greeted Yu Haiqiao gently and politely, and he answered me 3 words outside. I just typed and explained that I had ordered afternoon tea for the people in his entire department. Yu Haiqiao said, "Chen Xia came back from France and invited me to have coffee. No one knows why the IT department manager of a pharmaceutical company can skip work until working hours to go out for coffee and meet his ex-girlfriend." Yes, Chen Xia was the school girl from Yu Haiqiao's high school. He and Yu Haiqiao have been in intermittent contact. When I was in a very beautiful period of ambiguity with a music player at the school, I was mocking Yu Haiqiao, a lonely family member. In high spirits, I want to introduce someone to Yu Haiqiao. As a result, this person sat in the milk tea shop and took out his cell phone, found out his chat history with Chen Xia, and put his cell phone in front of me in a leisurely manner and told me, "Brother, still need you to worry?" Yu Haiqiao, the dogman, attacked me and beat me unpreparedly. Then he forced to retract the phone and put on a face that was obviously a smile and said, "You still worry about your music player?" Eyes, his eyes are short-sighted and it's useless to wear glasses to look at you. He didn't rush to beckon me. Is he 1.7 meters tall? You put on high heels and walked with him. Are you looking at him with your head down? And his level of appreciation of music, I don't know how he got admitted to the music department of their school. Said that he took 40 points in the math test of the college entrance examination. He smiled at me and said, "No wonder you are so stupid to go together." Yu Haiqiao's dog/forced mouth will one day be filled with hot oil and sew it with a needle and thread. At that time, I was so angry that I almost lifted the table in the milk tea shop because the table was fixed on the ground, so I did the action of raising the table several times without success. I had to make a fist to resist the urge to punch him back to his hometown. And the dog Yu Haikiao never knows what it means to be almost. I seriously suspect that when he vomited upright, I took a knife and split him from the middle. This person's four-part mouth was still can continue to talk. He still calmly continued in my angry expression, speaking of which, the last time I accidentally saw him in a small hotel near the school, he was walking happily with a 1.5-meter girl in his arms. I groaned inwardly, marveling at myself that the eyes of men are not as good as those of dogs. Yu Haikiao reached out and patted my shoulder very heavily after saying this to me, "Sorry." This gleeful made me so angry that I turned around and left, and secretly vowed in my heart again that I would not meet Yu Haikiao again until the day when the dog/forced death. Afterwards, it was Yu Haikiao who apologized to me for a week and covered my food for a month. He also helped me go to class when I didn't want to take elective courses for various reasons. This matter was reluctant. Revealed the past. Now this person is dating an ex-girlfriend who has never been disconnected during working hours. I think it's a big problem. So he gave him several instructions very seriously in WeChat, "Comrade Yu Haikiao, please don't forget that you are now married. If you have to regain your old love, then after you sign the divorce agreement with me, your conscience will be greatly condemned for derailing your marriage." As a result, this dog/force didn't reply to a single message. The last time he contacted me was when he was in the car saying that he was on his way home from get off work. He asked me to boil the carrot and rib soup in the pot first, and gave very detailed instructions. I use the ratio of ribs to radish and water. I think I have a good reason to be poisoned in this soup, it's a poison. Thinking of this, I was emotional, new and old hatreds flooded into my heart, and I couldn't wait to poison him before he was poisoned. After throwing down the TV remote control, I walked to the kitchen door and asked him to confront him, "You dog." He was humming a little tune happily, which was very unpleasant. He glanced back at me disgustingly, "Vulgar." He exhaled 2 words from his mouth elegantly and calmly. "Did you steal the popsicles in my refrigerator last weekend?" I asked seriously. Yu Haikiao thought about it very seriously for a moment, and answered me innocently, "It's not me." "Me? Did you break a bottle of the skincare products I put on the shelf?" "It wasn't me, you accidentally broke it yourself. Besides, didn't I buy you a new bottle? When I was busy working some time ago and working overtime on weekends, did you steal my facial mask at home every day? Last time my mother and your mother came home, your mother said that you bought things as if they were sick, and that the things could be out of date. They said it was to help you solve the inventory, so I took some away with my mother. It's true? Why didn't I know that they were here? Why didn't you tell me? I didn't seem to go home to see my mother anymore." He looked back at me, disgusted. "Can you walk out of the kitchen? It will affect my cooking skills." I seriously fired several hateful eyes at Yu Haikiao, hoping that through his eyes, he could immediately explain to me the evil consequences of all the previous lies. Yu Haikiao, the dog/force, did not understand the inner meaning of my eyes. He told me to get out of the kitchen, or if I was really hungry, I could drink some soup to cushion my stomach. Damn, I suddenly felt that our marriage had come to an end, and quickly made the following decision. I said, "Divorce." Yu Haikiao, who was cooking dinner happily, hummed, "Li." I said, "Just go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce this weekend." The dog Yu Haikiao said briskly, "Xing Lei." After a while he hesitated and asked me, "Does the Civil Affairs Bureau work on weekends?" A breath of malice came to my heart. Whether I am going to work or not, this marriage is divorced. Yu Haikiao looked back and looked at her unreasonably, making trouble with children for a long while. "Who will stamp you if they don't go to work?" "I'll go to the seal carving shop near the community and ask someone to engrave a chapter for you." I will buy a divorce certificate online and I will stamp it for you first. What is the meaning of each chapter? I gave him a middle finger. In order not to delay my dinner, I decided to postpone the divorce for a while. You must eat first, and Yu Haiqiao can die later. Yu Haiqiao's cooking skills really made me feel so angry that I could temporarily buckle to him for these 2 bites. Because of this rare advantage, I decided to let him go for the time being and let him live tonight. But Yu Haiqiao's shortcomings include, but are not limited to, he owes his mouth, is picky and habitually lies. Another point is that I think Oscar owes Yu Haiqiao the dog/forcing a little golden man, but whenever I want to communicate with him whatever he doesn't want he can always talk about him very naturally on the topic of communication. It was only now when I was quietly drinking 2 sips of soup. He forcibly opened the topic he had previously chatted with me. Chen Xie suddenly asked me to have coffee this afternoon. Hearing this, I immediately cooperated with him, put down my chopsticks and immediately sneered, "Do you remember when I asked you to accompany me to the May Day concert the year before last, and you told me that you were going to work?" Yu Haiqiao blinked his eyes twice when he looked at me, and his expression seemed a little confused. "As a result, you are skipping work and drinking coffee with your ex-girlfriend." I glared at him. Yu Haiqiao stared at me and blinked his eyes slowly again, and suddenly his eyes curled up and smiled at me very obediently. "She ran, you have a good memory." I despise his artificial acting skills. Yes, this dog/force has an overly ordinary talent in acting and acting stupid. I have quarreled with him to fight with him since I was a child, and there are countless times. Since I did not have any gender concept when I was a child, he was stronger than me as a child, and I was repeatedly pressed on a stool by him. After pressing on the sofa, on the table, on the wall or even on the ground many times, I was so aggrieved that I cried and vowed secretly in my heart that I would never take care of this dog, Yu Haiqiao. My mother told me about this. She said that I cried until I came home with tears in my nose. She was still wondering what was going on. In the end, Yu Haiqiao, who lives next door, carried my school bag and told her, I don't know why. A stray dog appeared near the school. It was very fierce and scared me to death. My mother concluded that she ran is afraid of dogs. Next time I see a dog, don't run. The more you run, the more the dog will chase you. Yu Haiqiao's dog thing is that he has been a dog since he was a child. In the end, my mother gave him a piece of cake I particularly like and praised Yu Haiqiao for being such a brave and good boy. Thank him. Brought back the school bag I left behind. When this happened, I was only in the 2nd or 3rd grade, and I didn't remember the details clearly. Just remember that I secretly vowed in my heart that I would never talk to Yu Haiqiao again. As a result, the man stood at my door waiting for me to go to school the next day as if nothing was wrong. I ignored him, and he blinked his eyes so innocently that I felt my memory was confused and asked me, "What's the matter?" That was the first time I was young when I had the idea of flushing a person's head into the toilet, which was really antisocial. However, Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, told me that when we had a conflict again later, when I quarreled with him in the 2nd grade of elementary school, after he pleased me in every way, I promised to reconcile with him on the surface. Actually in action, he also ate several lollipops he bought in the commissary, and let him carry my school bag for several days, but after enjoying his sincere apology, he immediately told his mother about it, and it was read. He stood in front of his house and said to his mother, "Auntie, Yu Haiqiao hit me." As a result, his mother immediately softened his heart into a stream of water, and immediately threw a washboard at the door of my house and asked him to kneel on the washboard to reflect on his mistakes in the direction of the door of our house. He also said to me with a look of disgust, he gave me a smile at the time, like a pervert. How could I admit it? The thing I don't remember anyway is that it never happened. But it seems that in my memory, Yu Haiqiao didn't fight with me much anymore. He endured my slap very humiliatedly when I couldn't hold back and hit him because of his mouth. He didn't return his hand again. She also explained with great tolerance, "My mother told me that there is a difference between men and women. I am a boy and should not bully a girl." At that time, I was still happily thinking that Yu Haiqiao would be a good person who could not fight back and curse, but the dog hadn't waited for me to be happy for a second. I glanced at me and asked very suspiciously, "But you two girls?" I almost cried with anger at the time. When I was a child, I was a very fragile and innocent girl. I haven't been tempered by the dog like Yu Haiqiao. I was so angry that my mother said that the weather is cold and I can't wear a skirt. The skirt went to school for a few days to prove that I was a girl, but Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, didn't even notice my little skirt. During the break, he persuaded me to wear a pink jumpsuit and gauze skirt so cute that I can bear it. If you don't live in front of the mirror and admire yourself for a long time, the little girl goes over the parallel bars. He sat in front of the parallel bars with several boys in his class and waved to me. She ran, "Pretend to be a lady, take out the pungent energy that you almost kicked me in the ditch last time and come up to play." Yu Haiqiao is not worthy to appreciate beauty at all, and he got me a cold shot for 3 or 4 days. In order to deeply let Yu Haiqiao realize how good my memory is, I curled my eyes and smiled at him. "You hit me on the ground when you were in the 2nd grade of elementary school." Yu Haiqiao blinked. "You have filed a lawsuit with my mother." I knelt on the washboard for nearly 3 hours, and my legs were almost gone when I stood up. I glared at him and screamed, "You just learned to ride a bicycle in the 5th grade of elementary school. I had to sit in the back seat of your car. As a result, the wheel not only caught my feet, but also fell me off the car and my head. There is still a scar now." Yu Haiqiao immediately pretended to be dead and slowly shifted his gaze away from facing me. I saw the dawn of victory and was about to chase after victory. Yu Haiqiao turned his gaze around and stared at me affectionately. "She ran, you are so beautiful, and the scar is your beautiful medal." I sneered. He wanted to be so disgusting that I couldn't speak or even eat, but it's impossible. I really know how heavy this person like Yu Haiqiao is now. Knowing what bad idea he was going to make, I stared at him and sneered, "Do you remember that there was a boy in our junior high school class who seemed to be a little bit interesting to me?" Yu Haiqiao exaggerated and exclaimed, "The one who has a non-mainstream hairstyle, wears non-mainstream clothes, never fails the test, and the English teacher calls him up to answer questions, but only hello and goodbye will stand up. The name half a head shorter than you is called Yang Wei, a boy who seems to have some abnormal functions. Is Yu Haiqiao's memory too good?" After a series of satires, he continued to taunt me, "She ran, I have a high degree of suspicion about your eyes." He sighed heavily after the satire, "But why on earth is every boy you look at is shorter than you?" I was immediately led by the dog/force to run away, and immediately retorted, "To figure out the situation, it's not that I look at him, but he looks at me." Yu Haiqiao lowered his mouth, with a look of disgust, "Probably because you look stupid and you are better to lie." I stared at him coldly, "Yet, who can't lie to marry you?" Yu Haiqiao immediately said, "You made money by marrying me." "Divorce." I simply came out 2 words. Yu Haiqiao, the dog thing, spread his hands towards me with a smile, and began to persuade me without any hesitation, "Don't Yu Haiqiao is a strange breed of dog/forcing swords and guns, no oil and salt." I angrily picked up the chopsticks I put down to start eating again, and very solemnly warned myself that this dog is a man, I must not be able to beat him with violence. I decided to be violent and die cold. He will not be worthy to say a word to me. It's impossible for a person to do any housework when she is cold and violent with her husband. It's also impossible to put the dishes and chopsticks after dinner in the dishwasher. I clean up and leave the dishes. Yu Haiqiao's character, who seemed to be able to lose his memory at any time, took effect immediately. He sat in a chair lazily and chatted with me about his work. The company's website is replaced by a new system. For a while, several colleagues of our desktop operation and maintenance were scolded by the doctor below every day. I glanced at him in silence. turned around and walked towards the sofa. I have always been very experienced in ignoring him with violence. As expected, the dog Yu Haiqiao immediately called out in the next second, "She ran, you do this again. Did I provoke you?" Oh, he could actually ask such things. He is a dog/force who is always provoking me all the time, okay? I walked to the sofa and slowly collapsed on the sofa, ignoring his howling. He got up from the chair and walked towards the sofa, and while walking, he said, "I want to complain to the relevant agency that you frequently use domestic violence against me." I snorted. He walked to the sofa and patted my calf. "Get your feet up, can you look at the honor you are now?" I lifted my foot and kicked his ass, using my action to show that this person should roll. Yu Haiqiao, the dramatist, stood on the edge of the sofa and looked at me so seriously that he would call the police in the next second. "You not only used mental violence against me, but also beat me." "She ran, you wait to accept the sanctions of the law." I rolled my eyes at him, and he pushed my feet to sit under my feet. My feet dangled for a while and rested directly on his thighs. Yu Haiqiao squinted his eyes and stared. I watched it for a while. Seeing that I suspected that my foot was not on his thigh or on some indescribable organ, I calmly stared at him for a moment. Yu Haiqiao immediately pretended to be like wind and said, "Okay, how much do you want to pay me this time?" His rich and wealthy tone seemed to say, "It's cold, it's time to let the Wang Group go bankrupt." I couldn't hold back the disgusting expression on my face, and I raised my leg and kicked his thigh. Yu Haiqiao's face was blue and then red again. He opened his mouth and yelled, "Where the are you kicking?" "She ran, do you want to have in the future?" Yu Haiqiao, the dog, forced me to extinguish the sporadic guilt that I had caused by accidentally kicking his important parts. I almost conditioned my reflex and began to ridicule, "Sex with you, it's better to follow the press/stick." Yu Haiqiao looked at me incredulously, as if he had been the worst insult of living to 30. Yes, the thing about Yu Haiqiao this dog thing includes, but is not limited to, making/loving things from the very beginning made me think that he and I can end our short marriage relationship. At that time, we were eagerly discussing whether we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to obtain the certificate because we were still a mentally handicapped boring agreement during the second period of secondary school. When I was 15 or 16 years old, I made an inexplicable agreement with Yu Haiqiao: wait until you and I are 27 years old before we get married, or we get married before we get married. In the end, it was like a curse. We were indeed not married yet at the age of 27. I still remember that sometime before my 27th birthday, Yu Haiqiao would stare at me thoughtfully from time to time, so I went to the hospital for an ophthalmology appointment at that time. After hanging up the ophthalmology department, he asked me what I planned to do on my birthday, and I immediately told him that I had been fond of the bag that I had been fond of for a long time and hoped that he would help to settle the bill. But I did not expect that Yu Haiqiao actually bought a bag to my door on my birthday. At that time, my parents paid me a down payment for a single apartment of more than 40 square meters near the company. During the spring recruitment, I was the company. Every day, I was forced to work overtime. When he knocked on my door, I had already taken a shower and put on my pajamas and was ready to go to bed. I was disturbed by him and made him look for a few times, until he took my dreams from this period of time. The bag was thrown to me, so that my brain didn't react for a while and thought that he had done something maddening and needed me to save the field. All the birthday gifts this dog has given me in the past 2 decades are things that I don't want at all and roll my eyes right away when I get it. For example, for my birthday last year, this person gave me a game console, but I have never been interested in games since I was a child. I have never touched a game console before, but this dog will come to my house every few days. Come to play games. On weekends, I can play games at my home until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. After playing, I roll up a blanket and sleep on my sofa. I wake up and blame my sofa for being too small. This dog/force wants the game console to give him a gift by giving me a birthday gift. Now the birthday gift is also sent, and I can play the game myself. Rounding up is equivalent to saving money. The older he gets, the more dog he is. When he was in high school, he even gave me a gift like 5 years of college entrance examination and 3 years simulation, which made me want to blast him at a glance, but I can barely say that I can use this gift. After that, I will sell the garbage gifts that I send every year directly online in the second-hand market, and it still belongs to everyone who asks me can I cut them. I will reply ease, how do you want to cut them? As a result, when I was 27 years old, he gave me a serious gift. This is so exaggerated that I have to doubt that the ophthalmologist I hung up on him before checked out this man's eyes and found something incurable. Tumor. I stared at him silently and suspiciously for a long time. Do you want me to borrow money? Yu Haikiao came in at my door changing shoes, disdainfully said, how much do you earn in a month? How much do I earn in a month? I snorted, but I received a satisfactory birthday gift for my birthday and I didn't bother to care about him for the time being. Yu Haikiao turned his head and stared at me with a pensive expression for a moment, and then suddenly asked, how did your mother tell you about a blind date last time? I rolled my eyes, that stupid / forcing me to wait for him in the cafe for an hour and a half. Yu Haikiao actually laughed frantically, then walked to my refrigerator and took a bottle of juice from it. After unscrewing it, he asked me enthusiastically, what about then? I snorted, then of course I left. I paused to reveal to him the little victory I had gained from this incident. I also called my mother to complain, and said she has to introduce me all kinds of garbage, so that she is not allowed to do this again in the future. I opened my hands to Yu Haikiao happily, so now my mother let me go for the time being. Yu Haikiao nodded slowly, his eyes suddenly looked at me affectionately, my mother urges me like a soul. I was disgusted by the look in his eyes, and felt that the new bag in my hand seemed a bit hot. Yu Haikiao slowly walked in front of me with the bottle of juice that he unscrewed, reached out and handed the juice to me, and looked at me up and down for a long time. Do you remember an appointment we made when we were young? I don't remember. Whether I remember it or not, it's definitely not a good thing anyway, so I immediately made a serious statement. I don't remember what I told you. You said that when we were 27 years old, we would live together before we were married or married. Yu Haikiao blinked at me very innocently. I gave a disgusting, don't make this expression, disgusting. Yu Haikiao didn't move at all. He bent his eyes and smiled at me, she ran, we are rounding up brothers and sisters. You have to help me. Look at the extent of this dog. I am a good girl who is very prosperous and magnificent in order to help him marry him, and she rounds up her brothers and sisters. You marry your brothers and sisters, Yugu. I came out. Li was angry. Yu Haikiao, the dog/force, waved his hand to me very calmly, tactical marriage. Tactical marriage. Anyway, you don't want to get married, and Dink doesn't want children. If you or I meet the person who wants to get married, I will still you can leave, isn't it just blocking the old man's mouth? I looked at Yu Haikiao this dog/force very vigilantly, divorce will be troublesome in the future, right? Are there any issues such as post-marital property? Are you coveting my property? Yu Haikiao paused with a slightly smiling face, and he said with a calm face, what kind of ghost property do you have? This house is paid by your parents as the down payment, and you have to pay back the mortgage every month until you are 36 years old. He stretched out his hand and poked it back. I bought this refrigerator for you at my expense. I bought the bed in the room and the mattress on the bed. I bought the air conditioner, and even the ordinary toilet in the toilet. I replaced the smart toilet for you. What property do you have worthy of my coveting? I stared at Yu Haikiao earnestly and thought for a while, and based on the above words of this dog, I came to the following very heavy conclusion: you're not going to have a crush on me for more than 10 years, right? Yu Haikiao's reaction to me was as if he sneered like a sneer in the world, his face was so cold that he was completely disdainful to answer this question. I nodded slowly. That's good, it's disgusting to think about it. Yu Haiqiao said, if you marry me, it is equivalent to helping me to help the poor. If I didn't see you growing up with me when nobody wanted me, I would look for you. You don't know what you look like, and you also have a little bit of your temperament. Okay, the guys who are in love nowadays are all the men who can act like spoiled coquetry. I was exclaimed after hearing this, so you are not gay, Yugu, you hide so deeply, you dog/forcibly want to trick me into marrying this ignorant girl. Yu Haiqiao took out the ring box from his pocket and threw it to me, turned around to pay attention to me, and groaned, hurry up, is it not? I stared at Yu Haiqiao with his back facing me for a moment, and finally opened the ring and put it on my finger. Then the next day, we both took time off and went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a certificate. After getting the certificate, the man still sat in the car and said to me, I don't think anything about me. Talking about feelings with me, rounding off is equal to incest. When I went home and shared this happy event with my parents, the two adults immediately happily ordered a banquet for the wedding, and smiled and said that we had a good relationship since we were young. After notifying all the relatives and friends who should be notified to finish the wedding, I was very happy to spend a wedding leave. I spent a few days in the Maldives leisurely basking in the Card of Yuhai Bridge. After I came back, I half forced to move to Yuhai, Qiao's new home. After I entered the house, I was still a little uncomfortable with my new identity. I was a little cramped when I stood at the door of the bedroom. Yu Haiqiao, a dog who was very self-aware, moved all his belongings to the guest room. He slept on the bed in the guest room and the sofa in the living room for 2 months. He still laughed at me every day as usual, so he adjusted my mentality very quickly. Then this forced me to drink a lot one night after receiving the certificate. I rubbed like a dog on my body and mumbled that he was uncomfortable. I thought about making/love because the body can get pleasure, symbolically trying to wake up. The dog failed. He held my head and rubbed my shoulder for a long time. The accident happened before he woke up from alcohol. Originally, I was quite indifferent, and I was ready to complain about incest with me when he woke up the next morning, but the next morning this man opened his eyes and fell directly off the bed, with a pale face. I think I raped him. I just snorted. Yu Haiqiao looked at me in shock. His miserable expression really doesn't seem to be a fake. My heart of the Virgin was born suddenly on such occasions. I always thought that this kind of heart had to wait until the dog Yu Haiqiao. The thing will only appear on the day it died. I calmly gave Yu Haiqiao this dog thing for nothing. Why, I'm afraid I will be responsible for you. Yu Haiqiao took a look at me, and he also licked his lips. This dog licked his lips frequently only when he was speaking on the podium as a student representative in the 6th grade of elementary school. I stared at him. After looking at his mouth for a moment, it was clear in his mind that he wanted a big mouth to be scratched on his face, and said, "Go nearby and buy me contraceptive pills." At that time, Yu Haiqiao walked out of the bedroom with a serious face, frowning, like a dead family member. He was a little bit more embarrassed than when he threw the ring to me when he told me to get married that day. So I really don't blame me for always calling Yu Haiqiao dog every day, and I will always complain that he is a dog/force, because he is a dog/force, a dog/force with conclusive evidence. He bought back the contraceptive pill that day, handed it to me with a rare serious expression on his face, and poured me a glass of warm water at a suitable temperature. When he handed it to me, he rarely asked me seriously, "Did you wear a condom last night?" Wearing a contraceptive pill that me. When I'm in a bad mood, my mouth smells so bad that I can hardly communicate. Yu Haiqiao was silent for a moment. I continue to smell bad. I don't even look at the need for condoms when someone in your family has sex. Does your family have condoms? Yu Haiqiao pursed his lips. I continued to feel unhappy. I don't know if you have any sickness yet, but don't let this spread to me some messy diseases. Yu Haiqiao calmly began to order, ask the hospital for an individual checkup on weekends. I was shocked when I heard the words, "You're not really sick, right? If it's passed on to me, I'll be a ghost and I won't let your Yuga go." Yu Haiqiao's lips were drawn into a straight line, and he said, "I am not sick." I glared at him, and ate the contraceptive pill fiercely. Yu Haiqiao's hand hanging by his hand was slightly lifted as if he wanted to stop me, but in the end he still didn't lift it up. After taking the medicine, I put down the water glass and started to go back to my room to pack my luggage. It has only been more than 3 months for me and him to get a certificate. It might be maddening my mother to go through the divorce now, but fortunately I still have a house. I can move back to live. I probably just packed up my own clothes for the season. I dragged my suitcase to the bedroom door. Yu Haiqiao was still standing next to the sofa. I have hardly seen him so distressed in my life. Looks like, after a moment of silence, I knew we shouldn't get the certificate. The divorce procedures are troublesome, and it's ugly. It's really ugly for a friend who has been doing this for so long to make such a departure. Yu Haiqiao licked his lower lip. He looked at me probably because he wanted to laugh, but the smile was really ugly, not in line with his personality as an actor. Friends don't do it, isn't it necessary? Of course there was no need for this. I don't care about having with him. Just feel comfortable, but his nervousness can even be said to be scared. It really makes me feel like I have done something unreasonable to him. So that he imposed on me the feeling of guilt that I didn't want at all. I didn't want to bear it at all. I can ask my aunt to help me clean up the things I left at home, and then you can pack them and send them back to my home. She ran. Yu Haiqiao called me behind him. I mumbled softly, and Yu Haiqiao repeatedly asked me behind me, I have known each other for so many years. Is it really necessary for my friends not to do it? It doesn't matter whether the divorce procedure is done or not. Anyway, I don't want to get married much now. If you want to do it, watch the time. She ran. Yu Haiqiao said again. I don't think it is necessary. He repeated this sentence calmly. This dog/forced tone made me glaring at him and told him word by word, I think it's necessary. He was stunned when he saw me turning his head to talk to him. I dragged the box and went out immediately when he was stunned. It was summer and the dog was so hot outside that I wanted to turn around and pick up the suitcase in my hand and put Yu Haiqiao on the spot. The dog/forcibly smashed to death. After smashing it, I still have to smoke a post-cigarette next to his corpse to make up for the pleasure that I did not get at all before and after with him. This dog/the technique is so bad that I suspect that all the island country love action movies he watched were hacked. When I was 27 years old, I had a fight with Yu Haiqiao without gunpowder, and successfully set the record for the longest Cold War between me and him. Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, did not contact me for 3 days after the accident. One of the longest fights I had with him since I was young was when he asked me to go out to play marbles in the 5th grade of elementary school. I think anyone who wants to play marbles on the concrete floor is crazy, and then we ignored each other until class the next afternoon. When school was over the next day, he found several kittens on the roadside, and he immediately found me and took me to see the little ones. Cat, this is how we made up. And for all the other so-called quarrels, in the next second, this person will feel like this has never happened. If I really ignore him, he will apologize to me with disdain, and then give me everything I can. Compensation to my satisfaction. But I didn't contact me for 3 days. On the 3rd day when he didn't contact me, I blocked his WeChat account and deleted his mobile phone number. On the 4th night my door was hammered by this man. He stood at the door and accused me, why are you blackmailing me? I roll my eyes to the sky, wanting to close the door and let this man smash to death on the door of my house. He held the door frame and looked at me seriously and solemnly. She ran. I look at him. He blinked, and suddenly spoke shamelessly, you are the one with me, you are responsible to me. Me? I was a question mark when I heard that. Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, deliberately looked at me with a pitiful look. I am a virgin, you have to be responsible to me. I really couldn't bear it, and slapped him on the chest with a slap. Yu Haiqiao is going to die. Yu Haiqiao coughed exaggeratedly after being beaten by me. He clutched his chest. You have an internal injury. You have to be responsible to me. I was so angry that the hair on my head rushed directly to the sky. Go away. Yu Haiqiao stretched out his index finger and placed it in front of his mouth. After making a hush, he reminded me in a low voice, "It's night, be careful to disturb the people," he said as he walked directly into my house and closed the door. I took time off for 3 days and spent a long time thinking about it at home. I think he started to tell me with a serious face, "I think we have known each other for more than 20 years. Right, and you and I are not sick. It is normal for the body to be relieved if there is a need. Right, we have such a good relationship to help each other to solve/physical problems are quite normal, as long as we don't cause life problems. Right." She ran. "Think about who you are going to do or not, there is nothing wrong with me, right? You can see if my thinking is correct. We are all grown-ups. We are in our 20s. Isn't it the truth that you have to sever the friendship for many years?" Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, said a lot of words at the time to prove very hard that we had no problem with having sex. It was normal. I don't know if he is persuading him or me. Anyway, the more I listen, the more I feel that he can build a heart with myself. The time I slept with him, he still needed him to leave home for 3 days. Repair my wounded heart? I've been squeezing the subway to work like a dog in these 3 days, and I won't be late to get a full attendance award for checking in for work. There was another time because that stupid/forced elevator was full of people just now. After leaving, I was able to get the card by climbing the stairs quickly to the company gate wearing high heels. Did I ask for leave? Did I help myself? Do I have it? I don't have it. If Yu Haiqiao is so wronged, do I have to find a psychologist for him and ask him to give him a paid psychological consultation? I immediately interrupted his words angrily. Yu Haiqiao, shut up, get out. He was silent for a moment. Does it really work? I glared at him. He raised his hands and made a gesture of surrender, in a very obedient posture. I will swear not to touch you again. I will go to the hotel after drinking and I will not go home. If this happens again, I will be hit by a car and die. Will the insurance beneficiary write your name all right? The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. She ran. There is no need for this, okay? I stared at him for a long time, but still couldn't hold back. Yu Haiqiao, you disappointed me too much. Yu Haiqiao paused and apologized to me. I'm sorry, I will definitely not go home next time I drink. I stared at him. He had been slightly bent and looked at me with his eyes drooping downwards. He avoided my sight and said quietly, "Never again, don't cry." I didn't want to cry very much, but when I heard the words, I couldn't help turning around and went to the sofa and plunged into my own sofa and collapsed. My leader asked me to recruit people for such a low salary, but also to give me the task indicators for each week's recruitment. If I failed to complete it, I would deduct my performance award. Woo, I took the subway to work and had personal things caught in the subway, which caused the subway to slow down. After 2 minutes, I missed the elevator and finally climbed the stairs and climbed to the office. Okay, why do you want to ask for leave at home? Do you have me miserable? You don't have to squeeze the subway to work and you don't need to wear high heels. You don't need to climb the stairs. You still ask for leave to think at home. I didn't ask for leave. Why did you ask for leave? Are you a virgin? The biggest problem with Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, is that I don't know why he especially doesn't see me crying, but when I cry, he immediately becomes at a loss. The breath that the whole person exudes at that time is, "I don't know you at all. What's so good about girls crying? How can they cry so much? Will they cry until they are short of water? And in this bewilderment there is a little bit she ran is crying, is she going to be a demon again? Collapse. His voice came from beside my sofa, otherwise I will take my car for you. Your car is so ugly, and I can't drive. I replied to him during my busy schedule. I will drive you to work in the future. You, what would you give me a city away from my workplace? I felt even more uncomfortable. What should I do then? Yu Haiqiao seemed to be infected by my anxiety, and his voice was also a little anxious. Oh, don't cry, or don't go to work. He whispered. The tigress began to cry. Isn't it okay to not rain in Iwa at all? It's weird. I lay on the sofa and woo 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 woo. We all felt that all the pressure of the recent period of time was crying out, and then the nerve called sanity suddenly shrank, and I began to reflect on how badly I was crying. Looks like, after thinking about it for a long time, I felt that I couldn't cry for nothing, and asked in a throat, is the beneficiary of your inheritance and the insurance? Yu Haiqiao will answer every question. The first beneficiary is the spouse. After a while, he seemed to suddenly feel that something was wrong. You won't go to bed at night to strangle me for insurance or want to be there. The food poisoned me to death, right? I whimpered twice immediately. Yu Haiqiao carefully taught me science. Now the law is perfect, and the police don't eat rice. I woo. Yu Haiqiao said, I can give you my salary card, and I have a little savings for a few years of work. I don't want Yu Haiqiao's bad money at all. I just cried in front of him and didn't want him to be cool. If this skill doesn't work, I have another skill. You are really a virgin, oh. Yu Haiqiao said nothing. I snorted in his weird silence and immediately felt refreshed. Then I sat up on the sofa and rubbed my eyes behind me, and patted Yu Haiqiao's shoulder heavily. You go, learn the sea is endless. Yu Haiqiao stared at me with heavy eyes for a long time, then suddenly his eyes curled up slightly, smiling naively, and he said, okay. After that, the frequency of life with Yu Haiqiao and I was quite stable, that is, occasionally when I had sex, I would think of this dog forcing the to wake up in the morning after the first time I went to bed. It made me think instantly kick him off the bed with one kick. This dog force is not worthy of having at all. He is only worth watching the island country love action movie with mosaics. Yu Haiqiao's dog key is a vivid portrayal of the word shameless. As a result, I didn't do anything at night. I originally wanted to look at a few resumes that others recommended to me very professionally. Although the leader is a fool, but the performance award is correct. After taking a shower at night and turning off the lights before going to bed, I faintly felt that something seemed to be a problem, such as I stretched out my hand from the quilt and turned on the table lamp beside the bed, and asked seriously, do you remember that I asked you to accompany me to the concert the year before last? What is your reason for rejecting me? Yu Haiqiao turned his back on the bed and turned his back to me. He reached out and turned off my light from his side. The dog force also complained, you are so noisy. I turned on the light and was unyielding. You said you want to go to work, you love work, and work makes you happy. Yu Haiqiao turned off the lights and said in a very tired and sleepy voice, what time is it? I have to go to work tomorrow morning. Yes, how much Yu Haiqiao this dog force loves working, he really loves working too much. I calmly continued to turn on the light. As a result, I accidentally saw you dressed up as insignificant when I was checking in at the local internet celebrity. Reached a new high. When Yu Haiqiao said that the pretentious sleepiness in his voice finally disappeared, he immediately added, follow you for fear that you will be in danger. I don't think I have a good memory, but Yu Haiqiao, the dog force, really made me think that he should die, but whenever I think of it, he should die. At that time, I booked 2 tickets for the concert a long time in advance. The concert was in the next city. Everything was going well. As a result, Yu Haiqiao told me with a heavy face that the incident was coming. Working overtime, the company system needs to be upgraded and maintained. He also made a sincere apology with a very sorry expression on his face, saying that all the tickets I bought for the concert, the ticket and all the expenses when I went out were recorded in his account. On the account, he will be with me mentally. It doesn't matter if he doesn't come and doesn't come. I think he seems to have a lot of work recently, and he has to take his work to the home study to do it. Once I got up at 1 o'clock in the morning and went to the bathroom. After opening the bedroom door and looking at my eyes, I glanced at him. What is your company doing recently and want you to work overtime until late? Yu Haiqiao was stunned, then sighed. Afterwards I found out that the reason why the dog/force is a dog/force is that he can always climb up with a pole, and he can climb as high as the pole is. Archimedes gave a pole to move the earth. He is give a pole to climb out of the universe. He sighed and said, yes, I'm so annoying. But when I saw this, I patted him on the shoulder, very sincerely, thank you. I bought concert tickets first because I wanted to see them. I bought them because he was under a lot of pressure at work and he could go out and relax. As a result, this person loves his work very much. Can I still ask for it? Of course I can't. The ticket was sold at a price higher than the purchase price. I took a high-speed train to the next city to watch a concert, because I haven't been to this one. I heard that there have been a lot of online celebrity check-in spots recently. Not in the hot season of recruitment, I asked my boss for 2 days off. As a result, during the 2 days I stayed, I went to visit famous scenic spots in the evening, took a few light photos with my mobile phone, and when I looked down and admired my camera skills, I accidentally found a very familiar person in the mobile phone photos. Well, it is Yu Haiqiao, this dog/force. He wears a hood on his head and a mask on his face. People who are fully armed can think of him as a big star. I zoomed in on my mobile phone picture, stared at the picture carefully for a while, and then looked for this dog/force in the crowd. I wanted to know how he worked overtime to this place. Finally I found this man by a tree full of small light bulbs. I walked around in front of him from behind him and stared at him for a long time. You go. With only a pair of faintly exposed eyes, he blinked at me. Just when I thought this dog/force was about to call me the wrong person, his eyes were slightly bent and he smiled innocently and cutely. Oh, you found it. I think you are very lonely here to accompany you. I don't think that even a dog would believe what Yu Haiqiao said. What's more, he made such an expression of I am definitely not telling the truth. At that time, 2 big words cheating appeared in my mind. Is preparing to be serious, thinking about what kind of posture should be used to interrupt his leg and then divorce and let him compensate me for mental damage and other things. Not far behind came a male voice, Brother Yu. I saw that Yu Haiqiao's eyes changed. This dog/force thought that he had to go to work as an excuse and ended up dating a guy. I have known him for almost 30 years, but I didn't even know that he takes both sexes. The man who called Yu Haiqiao came to me, sister-in-law, you are here too. Brother Yu also said that you don't like to play games, so I didn't call you. When I approached, I found out that this person is a colleague from Yu Haiqiao company. He just graduated from university and is a 2-dimensional boy. Yu Haiqiao is talking about a game that I don't understand at all. What are you two doing? I glanced at him. Yu Haiqiao, a 2-4K purebred silly/force, deceived me to say that he would work overtime because he wanted to watch a professional league game. This dog/force also plays games in the study until 12 o'clock every night, and he famously said to me that he works overtime in the study. I asked myself that after I got married with this dog, I really did what he said to me when we got a certificate, you are not qualified to control me. The reason he lied to me I still didn't think about it. Clear. Before getting married, he was still playing games in my living room until it was dark. I didn't do anything except insult him as a mad/forced person, okay? I was really incomprehensible and difficult to understand for 2 years, and uphold the principle of you are not qualified to control me, and did not try to understand his abstract brain so far. Afterwards, I happily said goodbye to him. He went to watch his professional game league and I continued to check into my internet celebrity attractions. Goodbye everyone at home. As a result, he said goodbye to Yu Haiqiao as a dog / forcing him not to watch the game. He left his colleague behind and walked behind me for 2 days, and then took the same bus with me back home. I ignored him on the road. After all, we met in this city outside of the plan, and being a stranger is quite new. It was after I got home that I asked Yu Haiqiao to buy me a bottle of yogurt home. He was inexplicably relieved when he handed me the yogurt and snacks. But after that, he didn't have to work overtime in the study, and from time to time he would talk to me about who is watching a concert recently if I am interested. Whenever he asks me like this, I occasionally sigh at a 0.01 second moment that Yu Haiqiao is a lovely person occasionally. Of course, most of the time he is a dog / force, especially on such a night at 11 o'clock in the night. He turned his head and glanced at me, and complained about me with disgust on his face. How can you complain so much, hundreds of years ago? Things are still talking about now. I gave this dog / forced a smile, and suddenly remembered a very important thing and forgot to say, speaking of things hundreds of years ago, I have one thing that happened today and you interrupted and forgotten. Yu Haiqiao glanced at me very cautiously. Why do you laugh like this? It's like a pervert. I continued to smile. A junior high school classmate added me to WeChat when I went to work this afternoon. I didn't know who it was at first. Yu Haiqiao half folded his eyes and responded like a crosstalk, oh. I was busy with work at the time, so the response to the information was intermittent, and the time span was relatively long. I asked Yu Haiqiao, ask me if I can organize a reunion of junior high school classmates this Chinese New Year, and no one will add you. Yu Haiqiao said from his nasal cavity, I can't add my friends through group chat after I have tuned in WeChat. I sighed, thinking that his pretense was in place. Then the person who added me on WeChat asked me if I remember him. He said he had a crush on me when he was in junior high school, I said. Yu Haiqiao's eyes were half drooping. Without moving his eyelids, he cared about his former classmate very humanely, so you have asked him if his eyes are healed now. I was not swayed by the dog's words / coercion, and continued, I asked who he is. Yu Haiqiao chuckled in a low voice. Then I asked him if he remembered Yu Haiqiao, this person. I was not moved at all. Yu Haiqiao glanced at me with a slight movement of his eyelids, and said a sound from his nose. He said of course he knew him, if it weren't for you, he would definitely confess to me. I smiled at Yu Haiqiao. Yu Haiqiao raised his eyelids and looked at me very suspiciously. His eyes seemed to say, what are you talking about? I said, yes, it's Yang Wei. Yu Haiqiao blinked at me very innocently, and chuckled slowly, Authis is the only one who likes you. I kept smiling, yes, that's the one who had a non-mainstream hairstyle, wore non-mainstream clothes, never passed the exam when he was in junior high school, and the English teacher called him up to answer the question. It would only be hello compared to goodbye standing up. I'm still half a head short, a boy named Yang Wei. Yu Haiqiao looked at me pretendingly in amazement and exclaimed, you have a good memory, she ran. I stared at Yu Haiqiao and still asked him gently, do you know why he didn't chase me because of you? Yu Haiqiao blinked his eyes very cutely, because I cured his eyes. I slapped him on the back shoulder, because you told him that my feet are stinky. I was working hard in the office today when I saw this WeChat message and almost jumped directly from the workstation. Yu Haiqiao, this dog / I don't know where to make my rumor like this. May I ask which teenage boy doesn't like Xiang, the best fairy who can't even pull shit, who is he? When mom is studying, she will like a girl who is said to have feet smelly. Yu Haiqiao, this dog / force is not worthy to live. I was so angry that I wanted to skip work and stand in front of Yu Haiqiao's dog/force to question Yu Haiqiao's dog/force, but this dog/force was dating his ex-girlfriend in the afternoon, and he didn't return my information. I really can't justify the matter if I don't kill him, I think. Yu Haiqiao was killed by me, the full text is over. This is how it happened. I kicked Yu Haiqiao out of the bed with a flying kick, and sat on the bed coldly watching him sliding on the floor for several meters, and finally hit the wall before he came to a standstill. The strength for me to kick down was so great that I could almost ignore all the known mechanics. After he hit the wall of the bedroom was sunken into a human figure, and the white wall fell off the wall and fell on him. Because of the depression of the wall, the painting hanging on the wall fell off and hit him directly on the head. He screamed and fell into a coma. Then I smashed him with a bedside table with my left hand and right hand. On his body, he fainted and woke up and fainted. In the end, I lifted the 1.8 meter by 2 meter bed and hit him directly. He was about to die. Before he could not do it, I held my hand and confessed to me in shame, I'm dead, your story. It's still very long. I told him that what Zhang Ailing said was not suitable for him, and then started to dial 120. Of course, in order to ensure his life safety, he had successfully belched before 120 entered the house, and I followed with a bitter expression on his face. The doctor who came to the door said that he had fallen and fell like this. The doctor strongly advised me to mourn, and then dragged Yu Haiqiao away. He soon fell into the soil. On the day of the funeral, the sky was clear, the birds were singing and the flowers were fragrant, and the air was full of the good breath of life. I also addressed his life at his funeral. Life is not glorious, but death is great. Then it should be the plot of me getting his huge insurance, but my alarm clock rang at dawn, and I was a bit regretful that I didn't live the life of a rich woman in a dream. Yu Haiqiao, the dog/forcing to be beaten by me yesterday, and then he ran to the living room to sleep with a mouse on his head, and while scolding me for violence, he denied that he had said that. I got him a pillow and blasted him away. Then I had a dream of killing Yu Haiqiao all night, because beating him in my dream all night made me very tired, and I felt very tired after being awakened by the alarm clock. Oops! I haven't recovered from the low-pressure mental state. There was a knock on the door of the bedroom. I flew over very quickly with an eye knife. There was a gap in the bedroom door. Yu Haiqiao, the dog/forced the toy airplane flew in through the gap tremblingly, and there was a long piece of paper hanging underneath. The toy airplane stumbled and flew in front of me. My eyes moved to the piece of paper hanging under the toy airplane. On the strip, after seeing what was written on it, my blood surged rapidly. On the paper is a series of dots and lines of various lengths. This dog/forces to send me the Morse code. Do you think I will seriously decipher the dog stuff he sent me when I wake up in the morning? I pulled off the note calmly, then dragged down the toy plane he had thrown in the air, got out of bed, opened the bedroom door with a crack, and walked to the living room. Yu Haiqiao sat on the sofa wrapped in a bathrobe. Holding the remote control handle of the airplane, after seeing me, he smiled innocently at me, "Good morning." I threw the plane onto his sofa, and the crumpled note was thrown on him. "What did you say?" I asked him calmly. Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, was unhappy immediately. "Is there any mistake? I have taught you how to read Morse code so many times. Are you a pig?" she ran. "If you teach a pig so many times, you can learn it." Okay. This is how Yu Haiqiao, a dog, was when he was studying, and he could use any skill he could play to play force in front of me without restriction. He once ran a 400-meter relay in a high school sports event. He ran from second to first when sprinting. He was still gentle in front of other seat was all the team's efforts, and I personally only belonged to this team. It's just a member. And always in front of me am the champion, without me there would be no championship trophy. It's just a matter of matching him with magnificent background music. At that time I bet him that he is absolutely impossible to win, of course, because I habitually deny Yu Haiqiao this dog/force, but for things like this that might prove his ability, he said it was left. Said it was right, so it turned out that I lost the bet and bought him breakfast for a month. At that time, the school had divided classes according to their personal grades. Yu Haiqiao, a dog/ghost, didn't know that the people who played outside every day had better grades than mine. After he was divided into classes, he was assigned to the first class of the school. I am in class 3 of school. I gritted my teeth and bought him breakfast for a few days after losing the sports meeting. Although there are many people in the school cafeteria, squeezing the cafeteria is a very painful thing, but this is not the main reason why I didn't want to bet. The main reason is that their class is a dignified schoolmaster class. I didn't expect it to be a fanatical center of gossip. Usually, I go to school with Yu Haiqiao and pass through their class to receive all kinds of strange gossip eyes from their classmates. After sending breakfast for a few days, I saw me yelling directly. This is really disgusting. I raised a mouth with Yu Haiqiao. This dog/forcing me to throw breakfast to him the next day. He was kind to him. Jiyu said that I was his maid, and his good friend burst into a ha 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 laughter when he heard the words. I became so angry that I quickly gave up the bet for Yu Haiqiao to buy breakfast. Afterwards, Yu Haiqiao did not madly criticize me for being an unbelieving person. Of course, this incident was not because he thought he was a dog/force after self-reflection, so he didn't care about me, but because of this person's time. There was no time to talk to me at all. This dog/force was pursuing our school flower like a mad dog at the time, that is, Chenxia in their class. I didn't know about it. Once I forgot to bring the workbook to their class and asked him to borrow the workbook. This person was not in the classroom for 10 minutes between classes. He was at the same table and said that when he saw the dog and his later goddess at the door of his classroom, they were also romantically strolling in the grove for 10 minutes between classes. When they came down to our teaching building, I called him. Waved the workbook in his hand and said to him, "You go, let me use your workbook." The dog/forced to stand downstairs with a face he had never had before and said to me, "Okay." Yes, once a man falls in love, it is so disgusting. It is obviously a mess of and disguise himself as chocolate. I estimate the time I have known him for more than 10 years. I don't feel like I've seen this person talk so well. In the past, when I borrowed a workbook from him, this person shouldn't ridicule and say something, for example, I didn't write homework to copy his homework. I later reflected on myself that I might be Stockholm. Under his dojish attack, I was actually taken aback by his good talk, and then I walked back to my classroom after the shock. This is really enough to prove that men are really bad. I even asked Yu Haiqiao sarcastically that night if this dog likes the school flower in his class. Yu Haiqiao happily said to me, "Of course I like it. Look at this dog." At the beginning, I talked sweetly to Ziahua Chen, walked around the campus, and talked so touchingly. As a result, this dog/force finally married me. Fortunately, I am like a bodhisattva and come to the world. Compassion is not important. Anyway, I haven't touched my mortal heart very much. I've never touched my mortal heart. Otherwise, all the things I've experienced must make me vomit blood for 3 times, and I may successfully return to heaven and become a on the spot. It was the second semester of high school at that time, and the relationship between Yu Haiqiao and Chenxia began to become particularly good. From the perspective of a passerby, the two of them can at least be regarded as a very disgusting and ambiguous name for a confidant without saying that the relationship between them is. Before the dog Yu Haiqiao had no confidant. This weekend he was either going to play basketball or some boring game with the male classmates in their class, or sometimes he would take me out to eat and drink when he saw me idle. After he and Chenxia became confidants, the dog/forcing people to go out to eat and drink both brought 2 people, which is really horrible. The Morse code is that he didn't know what spy movie he watched in his second year of high school and suddenly became interested in it. When he was young, he had a good memory and memorized it quickly. This thing pretends to be forceful with people, and specially taught me a series of dots, and told me, this is how it will be when I use Morse code to confess to people in the future. I don't know if this dog/force used the Morse code to confess to his goddess. Anyway, the two of them were together in the third year of high school. They happily study together and make progress every day, which is disgusting. Later, I broke up in front of me, and I had to confirm again in my heart that it was a man's inability to do so. In other words, Yu Haiqiao can't do it, this kind of strange creature is not worthy of love. After thinking about this, I have suddenly born Buddha nature, and I can become a Buddha anytime. I am about to become a Buddha because I am very short at work, and I don't want to be unable to get this month's full attendance award because of Yu Haiqiao's dog/force. I gave a sullen look, went back to the room, brushed my teeth, washed my face, changed clothes, and put on makeup and went out. When the steps progressed until he was sitting on the toilet to solve major life events and looking at his mobile phone by the way, Yu Haiqiao knocked on the toilet door, she ran. Why, the toilet is in use, go to the one outside. I replied. He said, no, where did my underwear go? I really want to stuff this dog into his own closet and lock the closet so that he can fully contact each of his own clothes, so that he can be familiar with his own clothes as well as his face. I scolded him calmly, you change 800 pairs of underwear a day? You use toilet paper for playing/aircraft. Why, I don't want to be clean, too. Yu Haiqiao stood at the door. It's in the second drawer of the closet. I'm tired of Yu Haiqiao's dog, and I hope he can be a man from now on. Yu Haiqiao walked away from my toilet door wearing slippers. A few seconds later, I heard him yelling, where is it? No, I have searched through this closet. My blood pressure surged slightly, and I felt that I was still a distance from becoming a Buddha to kill Yu Haiqiao. I packed up and rushed out of the toilet fiercely, then went to the closet and punched in the second drawer from the inside. A pair of grey boxer briefs was thrown on him. Are you blind, Yugu? Yu Haiqiao looked at me with innocent eyes like a little deer in a cartoon. Why are you so angry so early in the morning? I smiled at him. Speaking of my temper, I remembered that you helped me move my luggage to our dormitory when my university just started. What did you tell my roommate when I went out to answer the phone? Yu Haiqiao furrowed his brows slightly and was very dazed, and his face was written. Why can women in this world always move out of things that happened 100 years ago and I don't remember to get angry? This is what I later told my roommate, that I could wear a pair of trousers. They said that at the beginning they were a little bit afraid of me taking it with me. They also faintly disdain me. I thought I didn't do anything terrible. Wasn't I a little sweet in nature? Then they told me the truth, that Yu Haiqiao took advantage of my absence and said to them when Yu Haiqiao was helping me carry my luggage back to the bedroom, saying, do you know that Shiran who slept with you knows that he has a bad temper? You know, she was in the same high school as me. She was the eldest sister of our school. Although she didn't beat anyone very much, she was very fierce. You see, I am a freshman myself, and I was studying at the university next door. Come to carry her luggage, I am her little brother. Do you know that you will find someone to educate me if you don't agree? Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, is making rumors about me every day. Afterwards, in my angry and shocked expression, my good girlfriends also told me that they didn't want to believe it, but mainly Yu Haiqiao looks too deceptive. If you look at his face first, you can lose a part of your mind, and then listen to him politely speaking to people, and you will feel right. This dog/force. The only two advantages of his life are his face and his height, the others are all shortcomings, all mistakes, and all bugs. When I got married, the only one among my roommates who was not married was my bridesmaid. She slept on my bed at night and hugged my arm and laughed, I didn't expect you to marry Yu Haiqiao. You always feel that you dislike him and die. I laughed when she was holding her arms. I am dying of him. This is a tactical marriage between us. He said it himself. She laughed. The relationship between you two is really fun, unexpected and seems very reasonable. When we were studying, we secretly made a bet on whether you would be with Yu Haiqiao. I looked at her disgustingly, but I didn't expect this group of people to be so bored that they secretly bet on me. She laughed. I bet you two will get married and grow old. Now I think my good friend should be very gentle and gave me a gentle blessing. But now I really want to tell her sincerely, my good friend, bless me and Yu Haiqiao as a dog / to grow old. This thing is actually a curse when I think about it now. After I finished my question, Yu Haiqiao stared at me for a while. His eyebrows were slightly frowned, and his eyes habitually narrowed slightly. Suddenly he raised his hand and touched my forehead with the back of his hand, and then retracted his hand. He plausibly said, I don't have a fever either. Why are you always telling me about things from hundreds of years ago? I grabbed his hand that had not had time to withdraw it, and slowly put his hand back to his own side. After releasing it, I smiled and looked at him. Yes, it is a reflection of our dying marriage. I went back to the bathroom to change my clothes and make up. Yu Haiqiao asked me behind me, will I take you to work in the company during this period of time? His company is tens of thousands of miles away from me. After he sent me to the company, he turned around and came back to work immediately. Although he is an unmotivated dog / force, I still don't want him to become an unemployed dog / force. Recently, weird things have happened frequently. First, Yu Haiqiao, the dog, forced a private meeting with his ex-girlfriend during work, and then a junior high school classmate added me to WeChat to share things I don't know about. This morning I asked someone for an interview and the phone showed on WeChat. Someone wanted to add me as a friend. At first, I thought it was something related to work. After adding a friend, I sent a few words. I am Xiao Chen, do you remember? This is really a weird thing worth thinking about. Xiao Chen was the ambiguous person who studied music when I was in college. Yu Haiqiao told me that he saw this man with a 1.5-meter girl in his arms and happily walked to the hotel, so I checked his phone number, WeChat, etc. The contact information was directly blacked out, and I have never contacted since then. It was really weird to be in contact again after a lapse of 8 or 9 years. And this person should be regarded as a small star on the 19th line. It seems that he has also participated in singing talent shows, but I think it should be a player who was eliminated in the previous rounds, but at least it can be searched on the internet. To his name. I found out about him becoming a celebrity through Yu Haiqiao. At that time, we were watching a boring variety show at home. When the show was broadcast, Yu Haiqiao pointed to an ad and said, "She ran, this man. It's a bit familiar." I found out that this person is Xiao Chen after looking at it for a long time. I feel that I have been slightly adjusted, and I don't know why the height seems to have become a little higher, so I put this person's name in a suspicious tone. Tell Yu Haiqiao. Yu Haiqiao still pretended to be at first. He turned his head and glanced at me. Who? I thought he didn't hear clearly, and repeated the person's name again, Xiao Chen. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if he was thinking very seriously. I added, didn't I know someone who studied music when I was in college? Yu Haiqiao suddenly realized and then told me firmly, the heightening pad in this man's shoes must be 10 centimeters high. After that, he twisted the remote control and changed it to another station. And this dog/force 10 minutes before this happened because I refused to watch a variety show that he especially wanted to watch. A mad dog robbed me of the TV remote control, and after I angrily punched him and prepared to go back to the room to take it. I watched the TV series I want to watch on the tablet. This person also grabbed my arm and said that I had beaten him internally and couldn't go. After he left, he would die on the sofa in my living room because there was no one to take care of him. Then he beat him again, hoping that he could die directly on the sofa in our living room under my hand. After beating, the boring variety show is entering commercials, and the protagonist of the commercials is still Xiao Chen. I don't know if Xiao Chen has upgraded from an unknown star on the 19th line to an unknown star on the 18th line, but I took the time to click on his circle of friends and found out that he became a star. Later generations are particularly photogenic. Although I did not reply to his WeChat account, I did not block him. After all, he is pretty good. As one of the few good-looking men in my circle of friends, I feel that I have an obligation to treat him. Keep it in my list of friends, not to mention that in case it becomes popular one day, I can still peek into the lives of popular celebrities. After this weird thing happened, I wanted to tell Yu Haiqiao on WeChat immediately, but thinking about the scumbag things that Yu Haiqiao this dog/forcing has done recently, I stared at the stupid cat on his head and thought for a long time. Sending a message to him also dragged him directly into my blacklist. Xiao Chen, a star who doesn't know whether it's on the 18th or 19th line, didn't reply to me after I didn't reply to him. Instead, he added my friend Yang Wei from the classmate group yesterday afternoon. Oh, he has changed his name now. Yesterday afternoon, when he added me, what he told me was his new name. The new name silenced me for a long time, and I tried to recall my 30 years of life. I felt that someone I didn't know in my memory was called that. The name, a puzzled question mark, was sent over. He told me with great sorrow that since he entered junior high school, he suffered too much pressure because of his original name Yang Wei that he should not bear at his pure age. He waited until he graduated from high school. After he was 8 years old, he could finally change his name. He took the risk of being broken by his father and added a word to his name with his account book, so his current name is Yang Xiangui. Well, Yang Xiangui asked me on WeChat if I had decided to participate in the class reunion, how much do I need to pay for the class reunion, the more subsidies and the less subsidies used for group activities, and also asked me if there are any junior high school students who are in contact. For example, Yu Haiqiao, this is a very good friend of mine when I played in junior high school. Although he told the boy who had a crush on me behind his back that I was a girl with stinky feet. I gave Yang Xiangui a smile, and then told him with great pain Yu Haiqiao is dead. There was a long silence and sent me and I went oh and I forgot to say it yesterday, your new name is so good that it sounds so bright. Over there I faintly think you are taunting me. I sincerely returned 8 words and 2 punctuation mark show is it possible, nothing. Then he said quickly, I'm working, and the class reunion should be able to participate. After a while, I became curious again, but why are you organizing the class reunion? If my memory is correct, this person did not seem to love learning at all when he was in junior high school. If this matter is put on Yu Haiqiao, I can also explain that because Yu Haiqiao, the dog/forced to study, has good grades. Teacher's favorite. Although in fact he is a lazy person, it is impossible for him to organize any party in his life, and he may not have joined the group of studies. But this matter is a bit weird for Yang Wei, a non-mainstream student who has caused headaches for our class teacher. In the end, this Yang Wei, Yang Xiangui sent me a shy expression, and then Sadie organized it with my wife. I replied with a question mark, very reserved. Then he told me that his wife was the squad leader when we were in school. I remembered that the squad leader in junior high school was a thin and small girl, wearing glasses, although she was less than 1.6 meters tall, but had an aura of 1.8 meters, and dealt with like Yang Wei. Such poor students felt that they could become as weak and helpless and pitiful as a quail with a look in their eyes. I said 2 words wow and expressed my congratulations. Yang Wei thanked me for my congratulations, and started to care about my marital status. I told him solemnly and painfully, I am widowed. There was silence for a long time, and 2 words were sent silently, sorry. I said, you are polite. The happiest thing for a person to live to 30 is actually that he has a dead husband and got his husband's inheritance. Yang Wei didn't reply for a long time. He said twice, "I'm offline, bye." I also smiled politely, "Bye." Because I blocked most of the insignificant chat groups, I didn't see hundreds of messages in the group of our junior high school classmates gathering until I clicked on WeChat when I was bored at lunch, and I clicked in. It is probably found that the chat content in the group is roughly as follows: "I heard that Yu Haiqiao is dead. Isn't he? He is only 30 years old. Is he the tall and handsome Yu Haiqiao with super good grades in junior high school? I still have a crush on him in junior high school. Who said that? Is the source of the information reliable? And I also heard that Shi Ran, who had a good relationship with Yu Haiqiao at the time, had recently died of her husband. Who said this again? Really, they had a good relationship when they were in junior high school. I watched them go to school together every day. I thought they were a couple at the time." Silence. The relationship between the two of them in junior high school is okay. You haven't seen the two of them scolding each other, and you feel that you can't wait for the other to die and reincarnate. No, you are talking nonsense. They are just playing around, and Yu Haiqiao has such a good character. Shi Ran is also very good. Shi Ran is in the group. Circle her to ask what's the situation. Don't bother others when you are speechless. Okay, you are dead, husband. You are willing to talk about it everywhere, and quickly erase the information so that she won't be sad if she sees it. During a period of boring emoji, I received several friend applications from WeChat groups, and I have a good junior high school relationship, but a friend who hasn't contacted me for a long time asked me privately, "How are you doing?" I clicked out and took a look. I didn't reply to the news for the time being, so I continued to go back to the WeChat group to read the news. The latest news is, "I'm sorry I'm late, so is Shi Ran's dead husband, the dead Yu Haiqiao." When I saw this sentence, I choked on the rice very uncontrollably, and rushed to the bathroom to prevent the rice from squirting out of my nose. Originally wanted to tell Yu Haiqiao the ins and outs of this incident, and regretted his death with great pain, but then I thought that I had blacked him out, but I was not ready to bring him back, so I washed my face and looked back again. Arrived at his own table. I ignored the group news during the meal, and finished my lunch with a variety show for dinner. I refused the kind invitation of my colleagues to go downstairs to drink milk tea and read the group news again. There were hundreds of pieces of news, and I pulled up, feeling that my blood pressure couldn't come down a bit. A classmate who worked near Yu Haiqiao's work also sent a photo to severely condemn the person who spread the rumors that Yu Haiqiao was dead. He expressed his stance very seriously. "Please, is Yu Haiqiao living well? Who is making such vicious rumors? Why is the heart so bad?" After the condemnation was over, I began to talk about it with a sense of internet. I and Yu Haiqiao both work here in Daehe. My company is in Building B, and his company is in Building A. Occasionally they will meet each other when they leave work or have lunch at noon. It can only be regarded as a nodding acquaintance, because after graduating from junior high school I haven't contacted any more. I only knew that he was working in a foreign company. I didn't ask what he did. Yesterday afternoon when I ran errands for our department colleague to buy things, I saw him drinking coffee at Starbucks downstairs. The woman was a bit familiar. I only remembered it later. People who attended a high school and a middle school must remember. There was a beautiful woman in our class who was in the same class as Yu Haiqiao. She looked good and had good grades. She also had a good relationship with Yu Haiqiao. After all, they were both academic masters. I still remember I heard that they were talking in love. This is the woman. I went home yesterday and went gossiping with a good friend who was playing with Yu Haiqiao, saying that Yu Haiqiao is really good. I started dating in high school and now I am still with people. It's true love, but they are sitting together. It's a real man and a woman, and I feel that only the other party can be worthy of the other party. The kind of people who inexplicably spread rumors that others are dead are really maggots in the gutter, and they can't see others. Okay, so disgusting. I silently rolled my eyes when I flipped through the news, and put this account on Yu Haiqiao's head, and continued to flip down silently. I still don't remember the name of the big brother who works in Building B, who has a sense of internet, and he said again that's it. I just went downstairs and wandered around after reading this news to see if I could meet Yu Haiqiao. There is a staff canteen in the building of Yu Haiqiao. I heard from my friend that the food in the canteen is very good. So they usually don't come out to eat at noon. I rarely see Yu Haiqiao coming out for dinner at noon. I just went out for a while after seeing this rumor. As a result, my friends, I was near the company. The Japanese food shop saw Yu Haiqiao. He was going in with the first lieutenant colonel, I said at the time. These two people are too exaggerated. Is the affection to this level? Lunch during work. I'm going to have an appointment together to eat Japanese food. I was convinced. In order to prevent you from thinking that I was really nonsense, I secretly took a photo. Don't ask me why I didn't come forward and ask if Yu Haiqiao has offended anyone recently. I was thinking that these two people have been together for so long and are so affectionate. I don't really want to disturb them. Next time I meet you alone. Let's tell him about this Wen Haiqiao, and he's not in our group now, isn't he? I will ask him to add my friend and then I will bring him to this group. Next, I posted a high blurred photo. Although this photo is so confused that I think the big brother who posted this long story may be unstable when he hits /aircraft, but even the photo is covered with mosaics. I can tell the man who is entering the Japanese food store by the color. He is wearing the same jacket that he couldn't find this morning, and finally I found him thrown on him. That's right. I'm sure this person is indeed the dog/force Yu Haiqiao. This dog/force went so far as to invite Chen Xie to eat Japanese food at noon. I suggest that he should only eat in his future life. I quit the group chat, opened the phone address book and pulled the dog/forced phone number into the blacklist. After drawing the blacklist, I returned to our group chat as a maggot in the gutter again, and it was a bunch of babbles, including but not limited to people who thought that spreading rumors of other people's deaths was rubbish. And envious of Yu Haiqiao's relationship with Chen Ziqing than Jin Jian. I suddenly thanked Comrade Yang Xiangui for not confessing me, but he did not rule out that he felt that my dead husband was in a state of insanity and he shouldn't irritate me anymore. I continue to read the WeChat group messages. The latest news is I have a good friend who went to a university with Yu Haiqiao. I asked him if he could contact Yu Haiqiao. Yu's WeChat could not be added to the group chat through a business card, so I let he contacted for help. I can't help but sigh that Yu Haiqiao really failed to be a human being. After 30 years of life, no classmates in the class can contact him. Is there any difference between being dead? I don't think so. There are dozens of WeChat messages sent out below. Following a system message, Yu Haiqiao, the dog/force, smelled like a dog and entered the group. He also introduced himself as if he was mentally retarded. Haha, hi everyone, I am Yu Haiqiao. Everyone told him that someone said he was dead. They didn't believe him and asked him if he had offended anyone recently. Yu Haiqiao explained politely, no, I know who said that, I'm having fun with me. The following begins to condemn the joke is not funny, and tell Yu Haiqiao that he has made friends carelessly, hoping that he will be cautious in making friends in the future. Every message from Yu Haiqiao should be very safe and decent. Some gossips talked about gossip after warning Yu Haiqiao, we heard that you were still with your girlfriend in high school, you are too long, envy, how long have you been married? Yu Haiqiao, it's not just a friend, but I did get married. I have been married for 3 years. The people below began to be surprised again, hey. Then Yu Haiqiao said, but it's a new funeral recently. A row followed immediately below, hey. Yu Haiqiao, widowed. Then another row. Yu Haiqiao wrote heavily, I love my wife very much, and my wife also loves me very much. I believe she doesn't want me to be sad all the time even if she passes away. I can sense that she wants me to be happy, so you all I don't need to comfort me, thank you, I'm going to work. He also added 2 emojis in this passage, a crying face after the word sad, and a goodbye after the word work. I moved my thumb to exit the chat box and pressed the screen of my phone to go out. I took my phone into my pocket and got up back to the office. I gritted my teeth all the way and said bitterly inside, okay, Yu Haikiao, you are already dead here with me. You are dead. The body was burned to ashes, and the ashes were all blown up all over the sky. Since Yu Haikiao is already a dead person with me, I have cremated him in my heart, put the urn in his grave, and put the urn in his grave and put it in front of the tombstone. Huawen, when I saw his car driving a double flash and stopped by the side of the road when I was off duty, I hurried around the small garden on the first floor of the company, and it took me 5 minutes to go around the side door and try to slip away. As a result, something magical happened. His royal blue car was parked at the door exit with a double flash, and others were still standing in the security booth and chatting with the security guard downstairs from our company. After meeting my eyes, his eyes curled, "Are you off work?" The security guard who was chatting with him in the security booth also took a look. I really admire Yu Haikiao, a skill that can always amnesia with one click, and then smiled admiringly at him, "Why don't you go to work today?" He hummed, "I have something in the afternoon, thinking about you working around here and picking you up from get off work by the way." After I walked out of the small door, he grinned at me, "Moved?" I was not moved. I wanted to put my head into the window of the security booth, and then smashed his head frantically with the window. I smiled at him and said, "I'm moved." Yu Haikiao coughed, opened the car door and got into the driver's seat. I opened the back seat and got in. He couldn't sit still, so he immediately got up unwillingly, "I'm not your driver. Give me a seat in front." I gave him a roll of eyes, "Stop talking nonsense." While driving, Yu Haikiao said, "My mother called today to let us go to her for dinner in the evening." I asked calmly, "How did you know that I was coming out of the side door?" I was puzzled. I saw this man's car parked at the gate, and I was driving the double flashes for fear that they could not be seen. Yu Haikiao glanced at me from the rearview mirror of the car and smiled innocently at me, "I saw your colleague at the door. She said you went to the toilet. Let me wait a while." I gave a thumbs up to Holmes Yu Haikiao. He really took me to praise him. He blinked at me very obediently and made my fist hard. He couldn't help but yelled violently, "Why do I want to beat you so much?" He immediately disgusted and groaned, "What the hell?" My blood pressure skyrocketed, and I supplemented 100 ways of Yu Haikiao's death in my brain. Finally, I stared out of the car window for a while, and calmly told Yu Haikiao, "I feel a little nauseous." "Yu Haikiao, motion sickness? What did you eat at noon?" I calmly asked Yu Haikiao, "When was the last time I came to my aunt?" In fact, it was after 1 and 2 o'clock at noon today. At that time, I just finished reading the WeChat that Yu Haikiao sent to the WeChat group. For a while chi and blood surged, and then when I squatted down in the toilet, I found my aunt came, and it was Yu Haikiao's anger that came out, I think. "Yu Haikiao, it's just these few days last month." This dog / forcing my aunt to remember so clearly what she was doing, I held my fist bitterly. "Yu Haikiao, the dog / forced to speak, why don't you have dysmenorrhea?" I sneered, thinking that Yu Haikiao's dog / forced brain circuit might not be able to reflect what I was saying for a lifetime, so I decided to straighten up immediately, "Did you wear a condom last time?" Yu Haikiao's voice was slightly confused, "The last time it was yesterday. I want to kill this dog thing, last time. Wear it." Yu Haikiao replied like a primary school student answering students' questions in class. After answering, he complained, "When should I not wear it? My aunt hasn't been here for more than a month." I turned my head and looked in the direction of Yu Haikiao, trying to keep my eyes sincere and moving. I felt that I was in the driver's seat for a moment, and then he looked at me from the rearview mirror with a smile, but a smile. You came on the 22nd of last month. I calmly told him, you have a wrong memory. Yu Haikiao, there is a software in my phone that specifically remembers my aunt. I gritted my teeth. Anyway, my aunt is very accurate. I think it's a problem if I haven't come yet. Yu Haikiao said, today is only the 18th. I'm going to kill this dog/force. I wanted to lie to this dog/force that I might be pregnant, make him nervous, let him be at a loss, and let him be confused, but this dog/forced dog is out of control. The year I just graduated from university, we had a sister who slept with us, and we solved our personal problems very quickly. We also had a baby in our stomach when we held the wedding. The wedding happened to be held on a legal holiday. I paid it back then. Living in my parents' house, I happened to run into Yu Haikiao when I was waiting for the car at the wedding to go home on holiday. When I saw me, I asked where I was going. At that time, I just graduated and worked, and Yu Haikiao was still in graduate school. How about the beauty of distance? Every day I look up with Yu Haikiao but don't see him. I only want to beat him when I see him. He is studying at school and I work and live with my parents. Going back to my parents' house to eat and drink and come home with clothes to wash for a week, but the time to meet is still short, so seeing him is a bit more pleasing than before. I told him that a sister in the bedroom was getting married and was going to the wedding. Yu Haikiao glanced at me and asked very cheaply, why didn't she invite me? Because I'm close to his university and school, he basically knows my roommates, and occasionally I have to go out to play with the people they sleep in. Someone in our bed has a relationship with his roommates, but they get together in the same way. Yu Haikiao is a dog. As expected, my roommate is also a dog/force. After 3 months of dating, he said, I'm sorry, I don't think you are suitable for me, let's break up. My roommate was dumbfounded at the time. Does it take 3 months to prove whether it is suitable for this matter? Because my roommate was in love for the first time in my life, I was sad for a long time, and lost more than 10 caddies in just a few months. Although the people in our dormitory didn't say anything about this, in fact, they were faintly envied. I have lost more than 10 caddies in less than 2 months. I really want to fall in love and lose love again. Of course, I didn't say this to the person who was broken in love. We took turns to comfort her every day. I even called Yu Haikiao specifically and scolded him. Although Yu Haikiao looks innocent, in fact no man is innocent. After being scolded by me, he innocently said to me, but don't you know if the shoes are suitable or not? I was immediately angry, who are the shoes? After I hung up the phone, I madly scolded the 4 people in Yu Haikiao's dormitory with the 4 people in the dormitory. After that, the people in our dormitory didn't like to play with Yu Haikiao and the others. And the reason why Yu Haikiao and I are still playing, I don't know too much. Maybe he explained to me later. I didn't say that you are shoes, I mean we can all be other people's shoes. When I did not accept his explanation, he blinked his eyes and acted very vigorously, I'm just a pair of shoes waiting for others to try my shoes. Because his tone and expression at the time were too awkward, I beat him severely, and said with disgust, is it disgusting? Yu Haikiao laughed wildly while hiding. So my roommate got married. Although it wasn't the roommate who got married, shouldn't it be obvious not to invite him? However, Yu Haikiao, the dog, is so thick-skinned that he is breathtaking. He asked me to wait for him after I finished talking about attending the wedding. He went home and drove his dad's car to drive me to the wedding happily. Because the roommate and the roommate's husband are both students in our school, and both of them are locals, there are many classmates and people who are familiar with each other. Even Yu Haikiao also met 2 familiar people and they were very enthusiastic. Say hello to others. As a result, all the acquaintances present thought that Yu Haikiao was my boyfriend. I came to the wedding and brought my boyfriend to a meal. I would eat 2 meals for one person's money. Even my roommate who got married with a big belly asked me during the busy schedule of the wedding, "Are you with Yu Haiqiao?" I gave her a question mark. Yu Haiqiao happily walked over to say congratulations. After my roommate smiled and walked away, I hammered Yu Haiqiao backhand. "Are you acquainted with someone? You come to attend someone's wedding, do you have the money to prepare for your wedding for nothing?" Yu Haiqiao blinked, "Didn't you give it?" He bent his eyes and smiled, "Yours is mine and mine is yours. It's all the same. I even spent a lot of money to give you a barbecue for your birthday last month. It's a rack. No one knows what this dog/force brain circuit is like. He will give me a barbecue on someone's birthday, and enthusiastically grilled me a large bunch of half-baked kebabs and chicken wings." After listening to this sentence after speaking, I gritted my teeth and smiled at him. "You go to death." Yu Haiqiao grinned, and immediately changed the subject. "How many months has she been pregnant?" "It's been more than 6 months. I didn't want to talk to her, but when I saw my roommate stubbornly greet the guests, I couldn't help but complain. I feel a little unacceptable. Suddenly there is something in my stomach." Yu Haiqiao tweeted twice at that time. And the time that really made me feel unacceptable was when my roommate gave birth to a baby. I went to the hospital because I had time. After the baby was born, I immediately admired my roommate and deeply realized that if you have such a character as a mother, you might beat up my cub because he is crying frantically, and concludes that I am not suitable for being a mother. At that time, Yu Haiqiao was still in school, because I posted a new baby's circle of friends and WeChat me, "Give birth." I sighed to Yu Haiqiao, "It's terrible, I will resolutely not want children in the future." Yu Haiqiao said, "Over there, then you can't get married." This dog/forced all day long to curse that I couldn't get married. As a result, I didn't marry until I was 27 years old, and finally married a dog like him/forced. 6 months after I had with Yu Haiqiao, the dog/forced sex, Yu Haiqiao was very serious about thinking about children with him. Yu Haiqiao told me straightforwardly, "No birth." He said at the time, I'm still a child and I give birth to a kid with wool. Because there is no such thing as a child in my plan, although this dog/force attitude makes me feel that he is really not worthy of being a father, but I have reached a perfect consensus with him on this, and every time I wear condoms very rigorously during sex. Once there was no set at home, Yu Haiqiao put on clothes and went downstairs to buy. After I came back, I had no interest. The last 2 of them simply lay in bed and chatted. Without turning on the lights at night, I talked to Yu Haiqiao about the funny things that happened when we were young, about the stupid/forced colleagues we met at work, and about a majestic yellow cat in the grass of the community. In short, there will be 1 or 2 moments in a person's life that sometimes feel that dog/force is not so dog/force. Yu Haiqiao, a stupid dog who took me to his parents' house for dinner, abducted me and went to the hospital. The doctor took me to the emergency room after get off work, and I thought that there was something unspeakable about Yu Haiqiao. He was right. The doctor in the emergency room pointed to me, "Nausea, I want to vomit." He hesitated for a moment, and calmly added, "Maybe there is a bit of hypothesis. I've always regarded Yu Haiqiao highly, maybe he is not only a dog/force, but also a complete stupid/force." The doctor in the emergency room glanced at me, "Did you eat something bad? Did you have diarrhea, or any gastrointestinal discomfort?" I turned my head and took a look at Yu Haiqiao. I felt that my recent state was very wrong. I had repeatedly lost battles in front of Yugo. I felt that I should rise up to resist and let Yu Haiqiao, the dog, really recognize the reality. I really rolled in front of me and apologized, so I turned my head and glanced at the doctor in the emergency room. "It's still a trivial matter. It's just a slight dysmenorrhea." He didn't understand it, so he took me to the hospital. But Yes, my husband's sexual dysfunction. Which department do you think you should visit? The doctor in the emergency department looked at me in his MID-30s. Hearing that his gaze crossed the frame of the frame, he glanced at me, and then took another look at Yu Haiqiao behind me. Marital life is not harmonious. The doctor asked slowly. I opened my mouth, yes, he has great difficulties in that aspect, and it's easy. Yu Haiqiao stretched out his hand and dragged me away, pulling my wrist and back to me, and said angrily, what are you talking nonsense? I threw away his hand and wrote on the notebook in my heart, you go, you must not challenge his male dignity. I communicated with myself seriously in my heart, and decided that he would start from this direction in the future. I turned my wrist that was being pulled by him, and with a thought, I stretched my wrist in front of him, looked at him, blinked, and whispered, you pinch, it hurts me so much. When Yu Haiqiao heard the words, he breathed, and the expression on his face suddenly began to turn green slowly as if he had eaten a fly. I finally had a complete epiphany on the day before the 3rd anniversary of my marriage with Yu Haiqiao. In a marriage relationship, either you are angry with me or I am angry with you. Anyway, there is always someone who is going to be angry, so why can't that person be Yu Haiqiao? I was so enlightened, and I felt that my future life was beginning to become brighter and brighter. Yu Haiqiao dogged/forced to speak as usual, let's install less, I didn't exert any effort at all, okay. I stared at him, put my hand in front of his eyes, and said aggrieved, look, it's all red. I heard Yu Haiqiao hiss, his eyes drooped slightly and his line of sight glided over my wrist, his brows looked at me. I stared at him in silence for about 10 seconds. Yu Haiqiao suddenly stretched out his hand gently and grabbed my wrist, then blew on my wrist, his mouth still had a smile that seemed like nothing. He opened his mouth and said, it doesn't hurt, my husband blows, I want to kill him. I swear that he will talk to me with such a tone and expression again and I will kill him, absolutely absolutely. I took a deep breath, and fiercely resisted the wild roar in my heart, and tried to adjust my facial expressions. Under the scene of people coming and going through the world at the entrance of the hospital, I faced the risk of being struck by lightning. Yu Haiqiao curled his eyes and smiled, and said softly, thank you, husband. Yu Haiqiao dropped my wrist. He tilted his head to the distant direction, and for a long while he spoke in a cold voice, get in the car and go home. I put my hand in my pocket, quickly adjusted my facial expression to a normal state, and then replied coldly, yet. We sat back in his car calmly, and when I climbed into the back of the car, he frowned and said solemnly, sit in front. I was unhappy, but I didn't show it, and asked him very gently, why? Yu Haiqiao's voice is very serious, I have something to tell you, it is not convenient for you to sit back and chat. My rebellious mentality was naturally aroused by this dog/force. I was about to speak and then refuse. Yu Haiqiao turned his head and glanced at me and sighed, hurry up, my parents are waiting for us to eat at home. I'm not arguing with you. Yu Haiqiao, the dog, forced me to talk to me in such a tone of life and death, which made me unconsciously get out of the back, opened the co-pilot's door and sat in. He pulled the handbrake and glanced at me, seat belt. I fastened my seat belt and frowned at him, what do you want to tell me? Yu Haiqiao started the car, he raised the speed with a serious face, and let the car merge into the traffic. Then he turned his head to look at me, he smiled his teeth and blinked at me, wife, it's disgusting. I felt my nerves tightened. Before the blood pressure was about to break through the top of my head, I took a breath and said don't be angry 10 times in my heart, then turned my head and looked at Yu Haiqiao, husband, you are also very disgusting. Yu Haiqiao stared at the road ahead, pursed his lips and smirked. There is still a dimple on his face, which can be clearly seen by pursing his mouth. I didn't know what he was stealing from, silently rolled his eyes where he couldn't see. Yu Haiqiao said, I saw you roll your eyes. You have 800 eyes. Yu Haiqiao hummed in the middle of the way, and it was as unpleasant as always. I was silent for a moment, and happily continued to prepare to open the fuse of the pinch. I tried my best to use a voice that seemed to be self-talking but was clearly able to make him hear, and said, "But you really sucks, maybe you really want to see it." Doctor. Yu Haiqiao was humming a song happily, but in the end the singing broke, and the corners of his mouth were evened with a slight squeeze. Fortunately, he drove at a very uniform speed, and his hands holding the steering wheel were still very stable. I pretended to look out of the car window without speaking, and sighed, "Oh, it's dark Yu Haiqiao, what did you just say?" I sighed, I said it's dark. Yu Haiqiao, that sentence above. I tried my best to express it in an indifferent manner, "Didn't you hear it, you want me to say it?" Yu Haiqiao didn't speak for a long time. Until the car drove to his parents' house and was driving towards the underground parking lot, I wondered, "Why do you suddenly want to eat at your parents' place today?" Yu Haiqiao said in a calm voice, "My parents said that they hadn't seen it for a long time, so let us come back. They also said where they gave her a local chicken, and let us take the soup home to drink." I yelled. After I got to the parking lot and got the car ready, I got out of the co-pilot and asked casually, "Did you not tell your parents that we don't want to have children for the time being?" Yu Haiqiao still kept his throat calm, "Say it." I hummed. When I waited for the elevator with him, Yu Haiqiao stood at the elevator entrance and stared at the silver-white door of the elevator. After a while, he dulled his voice and asked me, "Is my technique really bad?" I stared at the elevator door in front of me. If it weren't for the elevator door to open in the middle, I almost let Yu Haiqiao see my painful smile from the door. I walked into the elevator, did not speak, and used silence instead of answering.